You know, when you made it to Nyobi Comics, when we cover you, you truly have made it. We are the big time, and that's just the way it goes, man. Rob Liefeld, childhood hero of mine. You know, say what you want about Rob, Bad Feet, Captain America chest, all this jazz. I loved reading Rob Liefeld's books. I loved Evangeline in particular. That's due in part to also John Stintsman, who deserves a shout out. But needless to say, Rob Liefeld has made a major impact in pulp culture society, you know, and I'm just not talking about Deadpool. You know, this man turned the New Mutants in a 180. You know, he formed, he was the founder, probably the original guy of Image Comics, you know. Rob Liefeld has done a lot more for the industry than I think people, want to give him credit for. And I think his voice carries weight, or at least it should. And he says, and I quote, "Look, woke comic book Twitter is absolutely a thing. The sites, podcasts, personalities, they all sing the same tune. I avoid them as much as possible, and they have zero solutions." And he's right. Twitter, Twitter is a thing, especially for these woke comic book types. All right, I like to think I'm a guy sort of in the middle. I'm not extreme one way or the other. Most people that know me could tell you that. I'm kind of like a moderate conservative, if that's even a thing, right? But when I look at this, what I see here is Spartacus again, right? So Mark Millar coined the phrase Spartacus for Glenn O'Leary, the comic book palace shop owner. And what we're starting to see is people stand up and say, "I'm Spartacus." Rob just gave his Spartacus moment right here. And so, because it's Rob Liefeld, it's going to bring on a variety of comments. As we can see, it over has 39,000 views plus, with over 119 comments. And by this time, there'll be 150 retweets. Rob Liefeld and Mark Millar are just two out of many to come that are speaking out about saving the industry in which they love. You know, there's nothing wrong with having some wokeness in books, right? Like I've always said, there's room on the shelf for everything. You want to do a story about a trans or gay superhero? Have at it. It may not sell all that well, but have at it. As long as there's room on the shelf for guys like myself and legends like Rob and Mark Millar. Now, I've invited Rob on this podcast. Maybe he'll take us up on the offer, maybe not. But Rob, if you are out there listening, definitely come by and talk to us. We're just comic book fans. We're no one special. I mean, I shouldn't say we're no one special. That sort of puts us down. We're comic book curators, Rob. Coming up, man. We're coming up through the ranks, and we want to talk with you. We want to have a conversation about comic books, man, and what you love, how you got started, all the usuals, and what you plan to do in the future, and what solutions that you might have, ideas that you might want to throw forth, and what we could do to save comic books, not just on a grand scale, but even from our level. By our level, I mean the small press publishing company level. We're published by Antarctic Press, right? What can we do to help you in this mission to save comic books? So let's see what the public is saying. So from Tommy here, "Sir, your most popular character is pansexual." And Rob says so. And here's the thing, as pointed out by Tom Hutchinson of Big Dog Inc. That's a modern take on Deadpool. He certainly didn't start off that way. In fact, the Deadpool that we got in New Mutants 98 is far different than the Deadpool that we see now. Now, of course, characters evolve and change and da-da-da-da-da. Just like Harley Quinn is a completely different character, basically. But when we first saw her in the Batman animated series back in 1990. So let's read Rob's reply here. He says, "This dude's response is exactly what woke people doesn't get. It's not about sexuality. It's about story and character. If that's all good, who cares what the character's sexuality is? Deadpool isn't popular because he's pansexual, but to wokies, that is the most important. If you have any African American friends, family, acquaintances, coworkers, please ask what the word woke means. It's painful seeing it used so wrong consistently. I do have some African American friends, some people I talk to here on the reg. They come on this channel fairly often, and I'm not hearing this come from their mouths. Sorry. Woke means exactly what the other guy implied. There, you have a black guy weighing in. Next, see, this is what I'm saying, right? Hi, another black guy's, and you and the other black guy is wrong. Wokeness is alert to radical prejudice and discrimination. You know, there's gonna be a lot here. We're just gonna read a few of these. You just called me a human being. Also, no ethnic group gets control language. You should probably let go of that mindset. I'm sure you enjoy life more. Christ Almighty, the schmuck from the 90s is the most classic example of a trend whore. The decades of work that people have done to change this shitty subpar patchwork ideas into something viable seems like a dare for people with talent to do. 2023 was another great year for my Deadpool work. Enjoy. Here's the thing. Here is the thing. Rob Liefeld doesn't need to impress you. Okay, he's already done that with the creation of Deadpool, Cable, Domino, Youngblood, Evangeline. Okay, like he doesn't need to do anything for you. The fact of the matter is that you don't like what the man is saying, but the truth is, he's been in the industry for a long time. Okay, a long time. You know, he's a fan. He grew up drawing comics, learning how to do sequential art. He formed Image Comics, okay? You got to understand that he comes with a wealth of experience, not just in the formation of a comic book, the drawing of the comic book, but also in the business sense of how comic books work. When these guys were thrusted into Image Comics, they all had to learn business the hard way, you know? They weren't armchair quarterbacks trying to dictate the comic book industry. They were the comic book industry. People seem to forget this. People just want to dismiss someone's value and experience just because on some sort of ideological front, they disagree. Fuck this trend whore of a haircut. One has complimented towards him and that he's a nice person, but whatever, his life depends on him leeching off of people. Well, depends on him leeching off, hoping people never grow up from this parasocial shit of having to defend this guy's garbage. Rob Liefeld says, you are quite the hateful and mean-spirited person. Yes, I agree. Carrie Williams says, good. I actually feel good that you saw this. I'm going to pass it around to my friends and family and strangers and her high fives because being a butt and a joke is your lot on life. Thanks for taking it with a smile. It's cool to know your place. No, what's cool is he's got fuck you money. He's got a great career in comic books. Rob Liefeld never has to draw a goddamn thing again, and he's probably still set for life. He takes part in comic books because he wants to take part in comic books, because he loves comic books. His place, says Dylan, and we know Dylan. We love Dylan. Dylan's on lots of Nyobi. Literally, who are you compared to the creator of Deadpool? And you notice how there's no answer here, right? You're Twitter's Batman today. Thank you for your service. We also know B.A. Turner. Mike S. Miller. We know Mike S. Miller. We'll give him a like as well. That's true. It's a cultural tragedy, and it's impeded and in most cases regressed towards evolution of creative expression and sharing the ideas online. Better late than never. Wish we had more vocal years ago when we could have stopped all this destructive narrative. Superman was a character created by two Jewish men to decry the anti-Semitic tropes of the time. The X-Men were an allegory for racism. Batman is a rich guy who uses his money to fight crime and help the less fortunate. Black Panther exists. Comics been woke forever. Superman's Republican. Superman stood for truth, justice, and quote-unquote the American way. Superman served the President of the United States. If you go watch the old Superman movies, you'll see that that is evident. Early 1930s Superman, as it started out, yeah, maybe this what S.A. Bill Cosby here saying might be true. But Superman throughout the ages really morphed into the All-American, right? The All-American football player, the All-American superhero. And, he was a devoted Catholic Christian, right? John and Martha Kent, farm boy. No, the dude was Republic through and through. Just saying. This guy wants a definition of woke. Your work is good, and you largely stay out of the mud with fans and stuff, so I respect that. Well, I guess he's getting dirty now. Cue the comics Twitter mob that doesn't buy or read books in 3, 2, 1. And they will come for your livelihood if you say cheers to the wrong people. Cheers, bud. Right? That's what happened when Mark Millar said cheers to Ethan Van Sciver. The mob came out of nowhere, right? Then we got MAGA Deadpool. I'm not a MAGA guy, just to let you know. Like I said, I'm sort of like a moderate Canadian conservative, so we're kind of a different breed. But that doesn't mean we're woke either. That's a smart play, to be honest. You gain nothing as an artist by engaging with them. We have the same issue in board games. Toxic personalities pretending to fight for something they don't buy in themselves. It's sad that the sad thing is the geek hobby, whether it's comics, video games, or board games, have been far more progressive than other forms of media. I disagree. I think it's only become that way really in the last 10 years, maybe a little bit less. Like, speaking of video games, right? The biggest thing about video games in the last little while is a couple things. The violence and sort of like the implied racisms in Grand Theft Auto was a big deal. And the sexualization of women in video games was certainly a topic for years, John. Years. Okay? So don't tell me it's just something new, because if it wasn't something new, we would have been hearing about these things 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and we didn't. It's only when Anita Sarkeesian started coming along and you had this whole Gamergate thing start up that, the microscope was really put onto video games. Same thing with board games, to be honest with you. It's all coming from ESG. That's right. Anthony says, I hate the term woke. It originally stood for one thing, then got redefined to what it is today. Now no one cares or talks about the original intent. What do you mean by woke, and why is it bad? Basically, what that means is, what do you mean by you people? Well, you know exactly what they mean when they say you people. It's you. Cancel pigs be like Comicsgate. Be careful what you said, Rob. They're going to come after you. I think that's the plan, right? You don't come on Twitter, comic book Twitter especially, say something against the left and think that nothing's going to happen. So obviously Rob knew, he's going to stir the shit. And I think he's more than capable of dealing with it, because he doesn't need to break in, right? He doesn't need to impress editors at Marvel. He doesn't need to impress DC. Hell, he doesn't need to impress Image, because he is Image Comics, right? Rob has nothing to lose by doing this. Maybe a couple conventions don't have him anymore. Oh, boo-hoo. You know what I mean? It's great to see more big names speaking out on this. Sunshine is the best disinfectant. I would agree. Wow, Rob, interesting that you're trying to be relevant again. Have you finally learned to draw feet? I mean, if that's all you got, bud, hey, bud. I love Rob Liefeld's Todd McFarlane impressions. Like, if we ever get him on the show, man, I hope he just busses them out, man. You know what I mean? What quote-unquote tune are they quote-unquote singing? Generally have no idea what you're referring to. This is a bait and trap. They want Rob to say something stupid or not well thought of so they can go, see, we got you, Rob. Everything I don't like is woke. A book for basic dickheads. This engine is woke. Totally, it's like, get some solutions. Am I right? Dave Walker says they have zero solutions because they are such a giant chunk of the problem. People are right not to give them their way anymore. Cancel pigs are a cancer on the comic book industry and hobby, a boil on the ass of nerd fandom. I don't even know what woke comic book Twitter is. I just probably just focus on what I like. Rob, you're an adult and this is embarrassing. See, this is the shame tactics that they try and deploy on you when you say something out of turn. you are you're an adult, you're an embarrassment. Now, if Rob had said, all you guys attacking woke and you have no solutions, if you're on the right and you have no solutions, people like Eggs Hog McNaughton here would be praising Rob Liefeld as a hero. See, it doesn't matter what you say, it matters for which side you say it for. Right? Either you're going to be an enemy of the left or you're going to be an enemy of the right. And when you try to walk in the middle, and trust me, I've done this for years now, it's a fine line, right? It's easy to teeter over to the other side. Usually we end up teetering over to the right because the left really has no empathy. They have no compassion. They just have their sort of playbook, their own set of laws and guidelines and fake authoritarianism that they think that they can push onto everyone else. And what we're starting to see here, and it's amazing, is a real pushback, finally a real pushback. And not just from small guys who don't really have a voice, but from the larger personalities like Rob Liefeld and Mark Miller, who are saying, you know what, we've been sitting here on the sidelines watching this for a little bit, and yeah, we're gonna voice out a little. We'll read a couple more. This is why I follow Rob Liefeld as long as I know his work, since fill-in issues of X Factor. All he's ever wanted, his only agenda, if you will, was to entertain the audience and readers. No lame identity politics garbage or propaganda telling us who to vote for in his comics. What is woke? I'm going to define woke, at least as I see it. Woke is basically a religion of the far left majority of people who vote Democrat, who want to phase out what they consider to be a systematic problem in society. Okay? So that's why they hate cis white men. That's why, they push identity politics. That's why they push sexuality. That's why they, have a sort of anti-church Christian narrative. It's what they don't have is an ability to have a conversation and meet in the middle. Okay, so the problem with the far progressive left and wokeism is it's all their way by any means necessary. And you've heard them use that term time and time again, by any means necessary. And they mean it. That's why they've gained so much power, because they don't play by normal moral rules. Better than you and your friends who peaked in the 90s and have been riding that success for 30 years. That you say that like that's a burn. The fact that they've had 30 years and the fact that they made things that have lasted the test of time is not an insult. It's not an insult. Spitting facts. This is going to confuse people because no one can agree on a definition. The definition is woke is the agenda of the far progressive left. That's the definition. Agree, woke comic book Twitter exists alongside CG Twitter. Both bitching and complaining, neither offering any decent suggestions or solutions. Well, I think Mark Millar's offer great solutions. Just you guys don't want to listen to him because he said cheers to Ethan Van Sciver. Look, Rob Liefeld's work is absolutely a thing. His website, his coasting off of past success, exploiting a situation he would never be prepared for and able to do, and none of his characters have feet. I avoid him as much as possible. He has zero charisma. I disagree. In fact, I find him to be pretty comical. Avoid him as much as you want. They won't avoid you on social media. Glad more comic book pros are speaking out against this nonsense. We need more. We need more. The trouble is, woke has become a code word for some, not you, Rob, not at all, to attack progressive values. Yeah, there is a bully mob on both sides, but most of the fans have no interest in culture war. They just want to be able to afford their comics in. Well, they also want comics that aren't pushing a narrative that should be a pamphlet for a political rally, right? Everyone's looking to define woke. I had a really good, I really had a really good definition of woke that I had thought up of like last year, and I had it written out somewhere. And I forget the exact wording that I had used, but I will define it someday. The woke lunatics have destroyed comics. They have lost 2 generations, completely surrendered by the industry to manga for what? Lame activism and self-indulgence and self-insert gibberish. Awful. Yeah, I think activism was part of my definition. If I'm just trying to rethink it as I sort of speak. I think woke is activism for progressive left ideology, extreme activism for left wing ideology. Anti SJWs are just as cringe, sometimes worse. Look, people who always say art stink aren't trying to cancel you. American comic books still exist? Question mark. You don't even know what woke means. Is there like an urban dictionary definition for woke? There must be. In case there is an odd, disingenuous bottom feeder who asks, "What do you mean by woke?" We just seen about 50 of them. The insufferable, ultra political correct whisper network cancel pigs is a good start. I love seeing them lose their minds and repeat the same things like broken NPC drones. Define woke, cat punches Nazis, X-Men were created as a racial allegory. And the Kickstarter, if these people bought comics, the industry might not be in the absolute state that it's in. Where did the woke monsters hurt you, Rob? Learn to draw before you pontificate on what's good for comics. He doesn't need to even pay that line any attention. You'll be the first guy, Joe Mama, to be in line for Deadpool 3. You know what I mean? So, I think what we're going to see is more and more established pros with FU money essentially come out and say this sort of stuff. And why? Because they have nothing to lose, right? They are names. They made their money. They made their impact. They have really nothing to fear. Sure, a few people get mad on them on Twitter. Big deal, right? Big deal. It's guys like me who actually have more to lose because we don't have that sort of FU money. We don't have that reputation. We don't have that street cred. We don't have that clout, right? So we definitely need people, higher up in the comic book food chain to speak out against these things. And it's good to see. Guys, let me know what you think about Rob Liefeld's statements. Comment down in the section below. That's how we get the algorithm to move, okay? Subscribe to the channel. We're at 951 subscribers, I think, at the timing of this video. And as of the timing of the video, which is the 12th of December, later tonight, assuming that the video is up, because I went and checked, it wasn't up yet. But we are going to watch Mark Millar's interview with the 3 comic book retailers he has spoken about and give our thoughts. Super Chat Challenge will also be on tonight, guys. We will see you soon.